Houston at Cincinnati. So my question for you is, I think people were open to the reality that Houston could win this game, but I don't think anybody really thought they would actually win. So with this win over a perennial deep playoff run team in the Bengals, do you think the Texans could make and win a playoff game this year?
So hear me out. It's not that they couldn't. I still think it leans unlikely. But I'm also, you know me, I'm keeping it real, but I'm going to keep positive for Texans fans. Don't get on me yet. I'm keeping it positive for you guys. What I think it means is, making the playoffs this year, on top of even just making it's going to be tough because of how hard the AFC is right now, right? Which that's always been the reality for them. Every team that was going to be a hopeful playoff team in the AFC. But on top of just making it, winning one is it's going to be very tough with the landscape of the conference right now. But what it means is, look, you're showing
they're currently the 7th seed.
That is crazy. So as of right now, yeah, and that's where it's, again, when you got teams like the Bengals and the Bills in that mix, it's hard to say like, okay, by the end of it, they're going to still be sitting right there. Absolutely, though, is it possible? Again, absolutely. But back to the original point, like this is what I want Texas fans to understand, because this is the good thing I'm trying to say, is what I think it means is this year, probably not this year, right? Maybe if you just win one, it's like, is this the year though? The year? No. But what it means is like, you know what? Not only are we young and incomplete, we can still go out here and beat good teams like this. It's the whole thing of, you got to put it together against 3 or 4 teams in a row to go do the whole thing. But I think it shows you are much closer than we ever thought the Texans were going to be to doing that. Like initially when they first added CJ at the beginning of this year, I'd be lying to tell you that I didn't say that they were going to be taking at least, 4 years, 5 years to become like a Super Bowl contending team. Like it's going to take a lot. We're going to see a lot of growth out of CJ, yada, yada. Well, sure enough, I was very wrong. And it's like, no, CJ's already really grown. They're really just missing a few pieces here and there, and they're going to be ready to go for it in, like, dare I even say, like 2 years if they can just stay healthy.
I think another thing about the Texans, too, is like, obviously you are feeling pretty confident you got your franchise quarterback in the draft. But, I mean, their receiving core has just been electric. Whether it's Noah Brown, whether it's Tank Dell, whether it's Dalton Schultz, even Robert Woods is contributing. Like, they have guys all around. And it's like, whether that is pure talent, CJ Stroud elevating these guys, it doesn't matter. Like, the fact that you're winning with this lineup and against very good teams, imagine when you actually have like more talent around CJ Stroud. Like, imagine if they went and got like a true number. Like, imagine they went and got T. Higgins.
That would actually be ridiculous. Something to keep our eye on. Because that's something that might be very heavily in the realm of possibility. Side note, too, just because we were saying it, I remember, Noah Brown had a lot of like low-key haters when he was in the Cowboys. Like, kind of like hating agents. Like, no, he like Cowboys fans that we're not going to let him have success.
Because Dak Prescott couldn't elevate him.
They'd be like, no, dude, no. He's only getting those numbers because there's so many good receivers around him, and it's just target share volume, yada, yada. Hey, sure enough, Noah Brown telling y'all to go fuck yourselves. I'm going to just leave it at that. Noah Brown says, hold on a minute, I can get mines regardless of who's around me. As long as my QB's targeting me, you got to give a shout to Noah Brown for that.
I mean, outside of the Texans offense too, like their defense was letting it up. Like they were shutting down the Bengals offense.
No, I mean, so honestly, like Sheldon Rankins with 3 sacks in the day for the Texans. That's some like, I don't know if he ever hit those numbers with the Saints. He was a beast on the Saints, but Sheldon Rankins with the vintage Sheldon Rankins, a vintage on steroids, Sheldon Rankins Day. I mean, this is just ridiculous.
So yeah. What are you thinking about the Bengals at this point? Like, they came back once they're being down in this game. They came back after being down in their season to get, above 500. But I mean, Joe Burrow had 2 interceptions, only 16 carries on the ground. Like, what? Do you think this is just kind of a fluke game for the Bengals, or do you think this is something that they need to be concerned about? Because all year, I mean, like, oh, maybe this isn't a fluke, and then it proves it's not a fluke, and the Bengals are back on track, and then they lose to a Texans team who no one thought would have more than maybe 4 or 5 wins all year.
Yeah, okay, so that's where it gets really tough if you're a Bengals fan, because if you're a Bengals fan, and I said to you, the games you've lost this year already was when you had the Browns week 1, and then the Titans, and okay, and the Ravens is totally fair. But then the one yesterday, right? And then it's like, now hold on a minute. And I'm telling you, you have to play the Ravens again, the Steelers again, the Jaguars. the Josh Dobbs Vikings, which is at this point feisty and ferocious. I mean, shit, they're in a weird category. You got the Steelers again, the Chiefs, and the Browns again. I mean, I hate to say it, but unfortunately, because I've been so back on that the Bengals are for sure going to ride it out and they're definitely going to make the playoffs. I mean, they really might have screwed themselves with how the season started. Because not this to say, again, it's not like I'm not going to sit here and panic about the Bengals. I think the Bengals are still the same team they were. It's just that they put themselves in such a bad spot with how they started the year. It truthfully might be insurmountable if they can't literally ace out to mean that, because they're not going to. That's why I say it's easy to say that, but they're going to realistically lose at least a few of these, at least a couple.
Yeah.
Unless that they have that perfect run. And it's almost like this, if you don't have that perfect run, you're going to be maybe on the outside looking in when it comes to playoff time.
Well, fortunately and unfortunately, it's a blessing and a curse. In the AFC, it's almost like just make the playoffs. Like, it doesn't matter what seed you are, just make it, because all the teams are good enough to beat each other. So that's the issue, though, is like right now you sit on the bubble and it's really going to be like one of these losses, like losing to the Titans, like that could realistically thrown you out of the playoff race.
No, that's a lot of these could have. That's where it's like just the way they started those first 5 weeks, 4 weeks. Yeah, I think it will. Even if they make the playoffs, that is going to be what we will look towards literally till the last week, as like that was their narrative this year. Like how much they started the year was really like shaky and it had to affect how they ended it. But to finish it out with them, it's like, I don't worry about them. They're still a good team. Joe Burrow's health at the beginning of the year. Just fuck them this year. That is what it is. Joe Burrow's beginning of the season health, unfortunately, might have an effect on the whole year. But if you're a Bengals fan, at least you say to yourself, shit, at least Joey's healthy now. You know, you got to love that. This year doesn't mean everything long term, but you still want to make the playoffs. You want to go on that run. So